Hello and welcome. We're going to start the webinar in 1 minute to allow everyone to enter the meeting from the lobby. All right, good morning. My name is Chris Farina, Communications Analyst at Health Workforce Development. We're excited that you've joined us today for the Substance Use Disorder Earn and Learn Grant Program Supplemental Webinar. Before we begin, I would like to discuss a few housekeeping items. Number one, the webinar will be recorded and posted on our website in approximately 7 business days. Number two, the chat option will be open during our Q&A session, which is at the end of this webinar. At that time, feel free to place your questions in the chat. And number three, the slide deck is posted on our website and a link can be found in the chat box now. Today, we are covering updates to the Substance Use Disorder Earn and Learn Grant Program, including grant program elements, provisions and key dates, key application information, scoring criteria, and annual reporting. After that, we will go into our Q&A session. HCI's vision is a healthier California where we all receive equitable, affordable, and quality health care. Our workforce programs at HCI are intended to support this vision. In our work through the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, we're developing and implementing programs, including this one, to create a plentiful, diverse workforce that serves California's children and youth. Today, before we begin, we wanted to take a quick poll to see who our audience is, and we're going to post that poll right now. Results are anonymous, so please fill that out, and that will help us know where everybody is in the process. And we will do that. And with that, I'm thrilled to introduce our first presenter, CJ Stone, Health Program Specialist at Health Workforce Development.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everybody. So starting with the purpose of the Earn and Learn Grant Program. So the purpose of the program is to expand and train the substance use disorder workforce. Now, how it's going to be doing that is by increasing the number of students who are going through and getting SUD certified, by helping pay these students for the areas, the stages to be able to get certified that originally are unpaid, such as the required education hours and the field practicum or internship hours, and then also helping pay for the fees associated with the ICNRC exam. All of that is the purpose of this program. Also, on top of that, working towards recruiting culturally and linguistically diverse SUD students that represent the socio-demographic needs of the communities that they serve. So who's eligible? Well, the HCI will be accepting applicants from public and private universities, public and private colleges, different teaching facilities that includes online and in person, as well as other types of substance use disorder training programs. Now, to be able to apply, you must be able to do the following. You have to be able to report the quantitative measures that of the substance use disorder needs in the region. Also must be able to report on the partnerships that you are working with, the educational institutions and or training organizations that you're partnering with to establish this program, as well as provide oversight of workforce training that prepares these professionals to sit for their ICNRC exams, demonstrate experience training and supporting individuals who are working in the profession, as well as have the Earn and Learn program in place within 12 months from the execution of the contract. And we are allowing groups of organizations to apply together. So if you feel like you're lacking some of the criteria, or you want to bolster your application, we very much encourage you to group up with other organizations and apply together, but there must be one organization that is identified as the primary fiscal sponsor. Now, as for funding, we're going to be awarding 2 to 3 awards, and the awards are going to be a maximum each of $7.75 million. That is one of the adjustments in the addendum. It was originally 7.5. That is getting bumped up to $7.75 million to support the following: creating and expanding an Earn and Learn program for the SUD certification students. Also, paid internship or field practicum, paid time on schooling activities, and covering costs of certification fees. Now, the paid internship, field practicum, and schooling activities is all through the stipend section on the budget, which we will be going through later. And the incentive programs for educational instructors and experienced mentors, you will also find on the budget. And then the externship or work experience placement bonus, which we will go to in a little bit. So the award levels, HKI reserves the right to award full, partial, or no funding to an applicant based on their success in meeting the selection criteria and the amounts of funds available, as well as the geographic distribution. HKI is looking to make sure that we're spreading these services across the state of California, so award decisions will be based on the applicant's selection criteria, score, and geographical coverage across California. As for the budget, HKI will make a payment equal to 20% of the entire grant upon the execution of the grant agreement. And then the rest of the funds will be paid in arrears. So the remaining funds will be awarded in quarterly. That's another adjustment. Instead of annual arrear payments, we are changing that to quarterly arrear payments to help with the cash flow of this program. So as expenses are incurred, the quarterly payments will be in arrears. There is administrative and indirect costs that can be up to 15% of the grant funds, total grant funds, that can be used for administrative costs. And then also non-supplantation, supplantation. Grantees may not use HKI funds to supplant funds the grantee has received from another source for the exact same purpose. Program components. So this program is 3 years and will provide the following, which we have touched on already, but helping pay for the cost of the IC and RC exam, as well as other fees that are associated with working to get certified, helping provide payment for helping provide the internship itself, but then also paying for the hours to get your field practicum done, as well as the alcohol and other drug specific education hours, working towards your IC and RC exam, as well as mentor and educator financial incentives. And then lastly, the placement bonuses, which are 5% of the total grant award and can be given if the program successfully places 80% or more of its students in a externship or placement where they can get their work experience hours finished following their IC and RC exam. So that is after they've passed their IC and RC exam. If your program successfully places them in an externship where they can go and finish the rest of their work experience hours that are required before they can get certified, then you will get your 5% bonus. And there's a resource guide below, which you will be able to click on when we send out the recording. So the program component amounts. So this is the thing we're talking about. The student compensation, so that is a stipend amount of $20,000 per student. There's the mentor training incentives, which is up to $10,916 per student, and that is to be given to the mentors and the supervisors of the mentors and other staff who are working with these students, helping them get their training hours finished. Then there is an incentive program of $8,145 per student that can be given to the educators, helping the students get their education hours finished, AOD education hours. And then there is a $350 per student amount that is given to help cover the cost of the exam, as well as other fees associated with getting certified, depending upon which certification route they decide. Then there's the placement bonus of 5%, as well as the indirect costs that shall not exceed 15%. And with that, I am going to introduce my colleague, Nadia Leslie, who is the grant officer.
Thank you, CJ, and good morning. This program will provide students with a stipend to pay them while they complete their required education and field practicum hours in order to sit for their IC and RC exam. The grantees may choose to participate in the placement component, which comprises of placing students in a paid permanent SUD position where the students can attain the remainder of their work experience hours after passing the exam. The grantees will be awarded an additional 5% of direct program costs. Here is an example of how the funding will be dispersed if an organization was awarded $1 million. Upon contract execution, the organization will receive a payment of $200,000 to begin its program. The remainder of their award, $800,000, will be awarded in arrears quarterly after HCI receives the organization's quarterly reports for services. Up to $150,000 of the $1 million awarded can be used towards administrative and indirect costs. The $1 million awarded may not be used to supplement any other program for which funding was received from another source for the same purposes. The grant agreement will start in June 2023, and reports will be submitted quarterly and annually through fiscal year 2025-2026. The grant application was released in December 1st, 2022, and the application submission deadline is February 28th, 2023 at 3 p.m. Notifications will be sent to awardees in April of 2023, and the grant agreement start date is in June 2023. Please review both the grant guide and the addendum before starting the online application. Both documents are posted on our website. Next, Chris Paulukaitis, a data analysis, will discuss the key application information.
Good morning. Thank you, Nadia, and thank you everyone for attending. Today, I'd like to cover the key application information. So in our application, we'll be looking for the number of staff who speak Medi-Cal threshold languages proficiently while practicing in a program setting. We'll be looking for the number and location of training sites. We'll be asking for strategies to recruit and support students from underrepresented communities. We'll be looking for strategies to encourage students to practice areas of an unmet need, as well as strategies to implement culturally responsive care training into a program's curriculum. We'll also be looking for strategies to train students and support children and youth with SUD behavioral health services. Strategies to ensure students in your program will receive offers for full-time employment after completing the program and student placement. We'll be looking for resources for promoting student success, strategies for recruiting SUD counselors with lived SUD experience, and proposed budget. With that said, I'd like to pass it off to Dorian Rodriguez, Research Data Specialist.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. So I am going to talk a little bit about the criteria that your applications will be scored on, as well as what will be required in your annual and quarterly reports. So starting with the scoring criteria, you will be scored on Medi-Cal threshold languages that are spoken by staff. That is a list published by the Department of Healthcare Services that has about 15 languages on there. The SUD, you'll be given an SUD prevalence score based on where your training sites are located. A map of that can be found in the grant guide. Strategies to train students to support children and youth with SUD behavioral health services. For example, providing incentives for students who serve those who are 0 to 25 years of age. Resources to promote student success, such as tutoring or mentoring, and strategies to recruit students from underrepresented communities. So that could be something like having a partnership with a community-based organization that works with underrepresented communities. So some additional scoring criteria include strategies to encourage students to practice in areas of unmet need. That could include something like marketing and outreach to recruit students from underrepresented communities. Strategies to implement culturally responsive care into the program's curriculum, such as hiring bilingual staff. Strategies to ensure that students receive offers for full-time employment after they complete the program. And there's a placement component for finding paid employment positions after the program's completion. That could be like providing incentives to work experience providers for employing students. And then finally, strategies for recruiting SUD counselors with lived experience. And that's just a yes or no question. So for the required annual reports, they will be due on July 31st after each fiscal year. The reports will include some general questions such as contact information and that kind of thing, organization name. But then they will also include numbers and socio-demographic characteristics of the students in the programs, some additional program information, as well as expenditures and changes within the annual budget. HCI will be sending the awardees an online form annually so that they can fill that out online, and it will be submitted to us. So you don't have to do that. We'll recreate that for you. And finally, I will be talking about the quarterly reports. So these will include the number of students served, the number of students who have taken the IC and RC exam, the number of students who completed the program by successfully completing the required alcohol and other drug-specific education hours, field practicum hours, and passing the IC and RC exam. And again, just like with the annual reports, HCI will be sending the awardees this online form for reporting the required information. And all of these things are included in the grant agreement. And now I would like to hand things back over to Chris Rowena, Communications Analyst for the Q&A. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. This team has worked really hard to put this program together, and we're really excited to present it to you all. We're going to transition now to our Q&A session, and we're taking questions through the chat feature only today, as opposed to raising hands and enabling audio. This will make it easier for us to answer as many questions as possible in an orderly fashion. The chat option should be open now, and I'm going to facilitate the questions, and our presenters will answer based on their area of expertise. We'll do our best to answer all your questions in the order they are received. And so now we can begin that. I see the first question there. Can we have different students start in different years?
Yes.
Okay, the answer is yes. All right, and then looks like there's additional questions said. The academic environment hours have to equal 20 hours per week. May optional study hours, time with mentors, extra study materials, and learning field trips be included in the 20 hours? Are the students paid for the time they study? Are we allowed to pay 40 hours per week?
So a new addendum that was put out was a specific, one of the main reasons for that was addressing this exact question, Sherry. So we realized that it was very restrictive and prescriptive on exactly how the students were supposed to spend their time. So the new, and this also addresses Jess's next question as well, which is the new formatting is the student stipend is $20,000. And that we are expecting that the program is going to pay for the students' required schooling. So their in-class time as well as their field practicum hours. Now, how that is done is up to the program and up to the student on how they would like to accomplish that. But we understand that those can be done in tandem and not necessarily one after the other. And so it's a little less, the addendum has made it less prescriptive on how exactly those funds and the time the student has to spend. It is now a stipend amount that can be given to the student at the discretion of the program. Now that amount hasn't changed, and but you have the authority to provide that to the students as you decide.
Thank you, CJ. And that answered Jess's question as well, correct?
Yes, it did.
All
Or
right, thank you.
I can expand on that further.
Okay.
So after the completion of 270 hours of education in the grant, yeah, so that addresses it slightly, Jess. In that the hours can be done at the discretion of the program and the student, but the amount of the $20,000 stipend is what is allotted, and then you as the grant provider get to decide how that is provided to the student.
All right, thank you. Jake Miner asks, can you please clarify the statement that 2 to 3 awards will be granted? Does that mean you are capping the total number of awardees at 2 to 3, regardless of how much money those awardees are applying for?
Grants team, would you like to answer this one?
The awards can change depending on how much everybody's asking for. So it's a maximum of 3 awards if everybody's asking for 7.75 million, but it'll change if the amounts are changed. That will shift.
Yeah, to expand on that. Thank you, Nadia. That's exactly. It's a little bit, it's not as straightforward, Jake, because if the top scoring awardees or the top scoring applicants, let's say the top 5 scoring applicants, all are only asking for $1 million each, then all 5 would be awarded. It all depends on how the scoring happens and then the budget. But yes, so 2, does that mean the capping total numbers of 2 regardless of how much money? So not necessarily. That is the maximum amount.
All right, thank you, Nadia and CJ. Lisa asks, if we already submitted the original grant application for the January deadline, do we resubmit?
Dorian, would you like to answer this one?
Sure. So you should have received an email with your completed application, so that you could make changes to it. If it was already submitted and recorded, so meaning complete, signed, everything was complete, then we notified those organizations who had completed applications and attached a PDF version of their application in the email, so that they could go back into start a new application. But for ease of use, you could copy and paste your previous responses into it, except for a couple of the areas that may have changed. Like, for instance, since the budget changed slightly, that might affect what you originally put in your budget table. So there was that, and then one of the questions was turned into a different format, so that response wasn't technically recorded anymore. So if you did not receive that email, please reach out to us through the BH programs email box, and we will take care of it with you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dorian. Sherry Daly asks, if a student completes their education requirements in year 1, can we extend their internship hours into year 2 and 3 to get their required hours for certification, as long as there is mentorship or some other learning activities?
I believe so. I'm having a little difficulty understanding the question, Cherry. But let me recite back what I believe you're asking in case I'm incorrect there. Now, if you're asking that if the student can be in this program for all 3 years, then the answer is yes. Now, if you're asking if this program can continue to fund the student following they take their exam, the answer is no. The student, once the student passes their IC and RC exam, they have completed the Earn and Learn program. And so they can no longer be funded. Their funding is done. But all of the activities, all of the requirements, education, work experience that lead up to the exam, up until they take the exam, can continue funding through the entirety of the grant program. I hope that answers it. If not, I apologize. Please ask a clarifying question on top of that.
Sherry confirmed that did answer her question. Thank you, Sherry.
Perfect.
Thank you, CJ.
And Chris, I believe we missed Alex Salazar's question above that one.
Alex had the same question as Lisa's, which was, do we have to resubmit the application because of, unless Alex, unless you need some clarification, I believe that question was answered by Dorian.
And Alex, as for why the deadline shift, we wanted to get the addendum out, and I believe the addendum was sent out a day or two before the deadline. So we apologize for the quick turnaround there right before the deadline. The deadline was adjusted with the addendum as well. So, but we apologize for any miscommunication there. But we felt like it was crucial for the success of the program to put this addendum out and to make it easier for the grant managers such as yourself to manage this grant for the best success possible. So we apologize for that.
All right, thank you, CJ. Jess is asking a clarifying question to the answer above about the practicum. The specific field practicum for CCAPP and CADTP cannot be done at our discretion and cannot start until after the education component is completed. So are you saying that the 255 hours are just regular work experience internship hours?
Yes.
Sherry Daly asks, stipends are a minimum of $20,000 each. Is this paid to their educational institution for their tuition and to the agency where they do the internship, or to the students after they complete?
That is to the students, and that is it could be after they complete, or it could be during their time. That is up to your program, how you would like to facilitate that. What we had previously had prescribed was during. So monthly, paying the students for their, or you could pay them after each course they finish. You could pay them weekly when they're doing their internship. That is up to you. We are obviously going to be paying you quarterly as you incur payments. So if there's a concern around being able to fund bankroll paying the students, we're hoping that the quarterly payments can help minimize that concern. But yes, those stipends are specifically for these students directly during their entire time working towards that IC and RC exam. And so that is not to be paid to their educational institution. The educational incentives are to be paid to the educational institution and the employees of the institution. And then I apologize, the mentor incentives are to be paid for the mentors and the supervisors.
All right, thank you. And Cameron, thank you for helping Lisa in the chat. I see that. Julie asks, are there specific requirements for mentors?
That's a great question, Julie. So I believe so, yes. In that they have to be able to qualify to be one of the mentors who can provide the internship hours, so to help guide the students through the internship hours. If the question is more so who is allowed to receive funds from the mentorship incentives, that has a very broad definition, and we've listed out a couple of the individuals who can receive those in the addendum. That can be the individuals who are working with these students. So when the student is assigned to an organization that they are going to be getting their internship hours through, all of the paid employees at that organization can qualify to receive these mentorship funds. So that can be the administrative workers who are helping them, the case managers, the certified SED counselors, as well as the supervisors of the SED counselors. So it's very broad, and there's a reason why it's broad. We're trying to get as many funds as possible into the SUD workforce, and we want to help give incentives to individuals who want to work with these students, because we want people to be eager to work with these students.
All right, thank you, CJ. Gary Green has 5 questions. Number 1, can LMFTs supervise, mentor, and help place students?
I'm unsure of that, Gary. I'll have to get back to you on that, unless anybody else on the team has that answer.
Number 2, is this program competing with college SUD programs?
No, Gary. College SUD programs can actually apply to this program and receive funding to help supplement their program.
Number 3, what if any training supports will you be able to provide?
So maybe I'm misreading this, Gary. So we will not be providing any training supports. We will be providing financial supports for the training. So it is the grantee's responsibility to provide the training to the students, and then it is HCI's responsibility to provide funding for that training. So we are funding SUD training programs. If you are an educational or a employment or employer training facility, or just a training facility in general, you may apply, and we are going to be providing funds for you to facilitate that training.
Number 4, how do you measure Medi-Cal threshold language?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you will be asked in the annual report to report out on the number of staff that speak any of the listed Medi-Cal threshold languages, and then a percentage will determine your score. So, for instance, if you had 35% or more of your staff spoke Farsi, for example, then you would receive 30 points. And that breakdown is listed in the grant guide in the scoring criteria section.
All right, thank you, Dorian. Number 5, do you assist with the correct implementation of reporting requirements?
Dorian,
I'm thinking that's me, right? Do you assist with the correct implementation? Can you please clarify that question?
Gary, if you're able to put in the chat some clarification on that question, please.
Happy to answer, just not quite sure what you're asking.
While we're waiting for clarification on that, we'll answer question 6. Do you have a recommendation for student recruitment?
That is definitely up to your program, Gary. And if you would like to speak to other program applicants, we heavily encourage that. As for our recommendations, I would I don't want to lead you astray, given this is not our expertise. And so I would recommend, I know there's a lot of great resources online for student recruitment that I would point you towards. And unless anybody else on the team has another answer.
I'm going to go ahead and try oh, there we go. I see Gary now. Okay. We have a question regarding the implementation. Oh, okay. Gotcha. If you have any questions, please feel free to just email the address that is up on the screen, the behavioral health programs, and we will do our best to help you out.
All right.
And
Thank
our
you.
staff is more than willing and able to provide any grantees with technical assistance with the reports as needed. So
All right. Find my place here. All right, Sherry Daly asking, is the stipend per student per 3 years of per year? Can one student receive 20K per year, in other words?
So that funding is for the student, no matter how long they are in that program. So that $20,000 is, let's say, one student takes 2 years to pass their IC and RC exam. That $20,000 will be for 2 years. If one student takes 5 months, then it would be 5 months. Obviously, 5 months is a little bit out of the question. From our understanding, it takes a year to 2 years to complete this, and so that $20,000 is for that student, the entirety of their program. So it is not $20,000 per year; it is $20,000 per student.
And then Sherry also asks, is tuition considered an incentive or part of the stipend? Can we pay the tuition directly on the student's behalf so that it is not a barrier?
Consider incentive or part of the stipend. So tuition could be covered by a couple of things. So that could be considered technically part of the fee. Obviously, fee is not nearly the amount of the stipend. The stipend could be potentially used for that. And yes, you can pay for the tuition directly on the student's behalf, so it is not a barrier.
And then for certification purposes, licensed professionals can supervise. I'm not sure if that's a question.
I think that was more of a statement. Appreciate it,
Yes.
Sherry. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I think that was to something up above.
That was to the LMFT question up top.
Yeah. Okay, we answered Gary's question about contacting us. Please do at the BH programs email. All right. Page 5 states the grantee must have a formal relationship with the academic program in which the awarded student is actively enrolled and is required to offer paid internships. If the grantee is the academic program, do we then list all of the locations where interns will be placed? If the grantee academic program is online, do we list the corporate address as the site even though students will not be placed to do work at that location?
Yes, yes for both of those. We would like the address for the location of the employer, not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily, that doesn't mean that's going to be where the student is going to be working, but we would like the address of the employer as well as the location for where the interns will be placed.
Right.
For the academic program, sorry, to clarify there.
Yep. And then Sherry asks, so tuition can be an incentive?
So to clarify, Sherry, paying for the incentives are for the mentors and the educators. So those are specifically for people helping the students either in their internship or in the classroom. So those funds cannot be used directly to the student. Those are for the mentors. The tuition, I hope that kind of clarifies that. So the incentives are not for the student directly, they indirectly are to help the student.
And then can a certifying organization waive test and portfolio fees as opposed to collecting these fees and reimbursing them?
That's a great question. And I believe yes is the answer.
Right. Any other questions? We still have lots of time available if there's more questions. It's been really great discussion questions. Oh, all right. Let's see. On the first online application, the budget sheet was recording a weird total at the bottom of the page. Was I doing something wrong? What does that total represent? Please demonstrate how that page works.
Dorian, would you want to talk about this?
I think I'm going to hand that one to Chris. Chris P, not Chris R.
Yeah, I'm curious what the total was. I am definitely happy to work offline and kind of figure out what was going on with that. Everything should total up. I guess a clarifying question was it a different total than expected? Okay. Sherry, what I would like to do is I would like to actually go in and take a look at your application. And I'd like to get back with you on that to see what we can find out.
All right, it says Zell has the same problem, so we'll go ahead and Zell do the same thing, get a hold of the team, and they'll help you out as well. Gary says, I supervise at a SUD agency. I'm not sure we can even apply for this program. Do you see a path for SUD providers to participate?
Hi, Gary. Yes, there would be a path in which SUD providers can participate. And what that path would look like is you would have to partner with an education provider, somebody who was qualified to provide the education, the AOD specific education hours. And then your organization would be providing the internship or field practicum, whatever terminology you would like to use, those hours. And so you would have to partner with some organizations to make that happen. And I believe that there are some applicants who have been partnering up to make that happen. So, and I believe Jess is addressing you right there, Gary. So yes, you would be able to apply. There is a pathway, but it would require some partnership on your side to get it to where you would be able to provide education hours as well for the students. So
Excellent. All right, and we love it when the participants coordinate together. That's always good. Sherry says, I don't think it's a dumb question, but is anyone verifying that education providers have been approved by the certifying organizations?
yes, we have the pre-approved list, Sherry, that we are going to be, once we have all the applicants, we will be running through and making sure that they cross off.
Right. Very good. All right, more questions. Right. Give another minute here to let anybody think of any other questions that they may have. Looks like we may have come to the end of the questions for now. If you do think of more, you can always get a hold of us, and we'll be happy to work with you guys on that. All right, and then if there's all right, very good, Gary. Yep, if there's any other questions, just go ahead and get a hold of our team. Thank you all for your participation in the Q&A session. Those were really great questions. And as a reminder, we will be posting the recording of this webinar on our website in approximately 7 business days. We really appreciate everybody joining us today to learn more about the Substance Use Disorder Earn and Learn Grant. We're really excited to be able to offer it as a new program to expand and to train the substance use disorder workforce, and we are grateful for your participation with us. As we've discussed earlier, this screen provides some of the links for the resources that are available. We created a PDF version of the online application so you can look through it and understand all of the pieces that are required before you apply. We have listed the link to where the slides are posted, and we have also other information that's on the website, so we encourage you to go there, read through the grant guide and the addendum and all the other resources we have there. You're always welcome to email us at bhprograms@hchi.ca.gov. With any additional questions you may have, our team is happy to work with you. As a reminder, the application does close at the end of February, and we really look forward to all of your applications. Thank you so much for attending. And with that, we conclude today's webinar. Have a wonderful day.